Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Ballard.
Here.
Ms. Clark Emery. Ms. Cooper.
Here.
Ms. Gills. Ms. Gomez. Mrs. Hoppy.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Here.
Mrs. Rye.
Here.
Mrs. Frenda.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We are going to be going into executive session. The Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed, under circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public, or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would be clearly in danger of unwarranted invasions, and the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test of such act. The Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene an executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigations. Can I please get a motion to go into executive? Ms. Ballard, in a second. Ms. Rye, thank you. Executive session. You could rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I have to talk loud. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we have a lot of good stuff and recognitions to get to, so I'm going to hand that over to Dr. Brochel for the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mrs. Brenda. The first order of business tonight are our student representatives. We're going to kick it off with our folks from the middle school. We have Teddy DeGrandpre and Owen Finnerty are here to present on the middle school. Come on, guys. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Teddy DeGrandpre, and I'm here representing Burnsville Middle School with Owen Finnerty. Tonight, I would like to talk a little bit about BMS boys basketball. The boys basketball team had a good season this year. The team ended up with a 6-6 record, winning 6 games and losing 6 games. The boys sadly lost the close game in the first round of the playoffs, losing to Mountain Lakes by 3 with a score of 52-55. The Friday after that game, the boys ended the season with a win over Madison Middle School with a score of 59-60. Our team includes 8 8th graders that included myself, Ryan Frame, Dylan Gimma, Gregory Lewis, Grant Adams, Karan Singh, Sam Borski, and Maxwell Poole. 8th graders will be missed. We also had 5 7th graders on the team: Chase Thunder, Whip Burrell, Chase Davis, Johan Ramirez, and Teddy Whip. Thanks to Coach Reed and Coach Petrie. While it is sad that basketball season has come to a close, we have BMS spring sports to look forward to, including baseball, softball, and track. I definitely can't wait to play baseball. The teams kick off their seasons on March 24th and hope to have a good season. Lastly, I would like to talk about our 5th and 8th grade research approaches taught by our literacy teachers, Ms. Kimball, Ms. Chores, Ms. McGovern, Ms. Cronin, Ms. Turner, and Ms. Hyman. Students were able to pick research topics that they felt passionate about or wanted to learn more about, and they created a trifold that they set up in the media center. Students gave informative presentations using the trifold designed to share with various students and staff. Some research topics that were discussed were social media and mental health, climate change and its effects, the effects of fast fashion on the environment, and multiple presentations on different animal species. It was a great event where students were able to learn better research skills and create a presentation and discuss what they learned. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight, and I'll now turn it over to Owen.
Thank you, Teddy. I'll take the stage from here. One of the best activities here that represents our school is the Culture and Climate. Culture and Climate sets us apart from other schools because the students in this club get the opportunity to create meaningful events for our students that combine both education and fun. We have some great activities coming up, such as Pi Day, which was created by Owen Gagliardi, where the student with the most community service hours gets called up to pie a teacher in the face during their grade lunch break. It's a fun event, and we love that we have teachers here at BMS that would volunteer for such crazy events. It's a great way to promote doing community service as well. Another event coming up is our staff basketball game against the Harlem Wizards on March 17th, 7 p.m. in the high school lower gym. This great team was formed in 1962 to create a better basketball team, one that combines both sport and entertainment. We had many teachers at both BMS and Bedwell volunteer to play against the Wizards. Thank you to our BMS teachers, including Mrs. St. Hours, Mr. Malik, Mr. Bedrell, Mrs. McGovern, Ms. Tynan, Mr. Richter, Ms. Brown, Ms. Falaga, Mr. Calabrese, Mr. Halloran, and Ms. Haney. We are holding a pep rally at BMS on Tuesday, February 25th to promote the event and stir up the school spirit. Lastly, I want to talk about the 5th and 6th grade play, Charlie and Chocolate Factory. The play is being held on February 27th and 28th. I will definitely be there to support my sister and the rest of the amazing cast and crew of BMS. Red Collect. Thank you for having me here tonight and for your time. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Teddy and Owen, and we have Nora Dursack with us tonight to represent the high school. Nora?
Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you are all doing well. This last month, we have had a lot of student events and fundraising. The senior class had Night of the Stars, and it was an absolute hit. Everyone was dressed up, and we even had some parents join us on the dance floor. Admittedly, that might have been my favorite part. The senior class is also planning the senior versus faculty basketball game. So far, they've had 20 students and over 10 faculty members sign up to participate. Half the funds raised from the game will be donated to the Red Cross to help aid with California wildfires. Our Girl Up Club will also be participating, and they will be hosting a snack sale at the game. Their proceeds will also be going towards the Red Cross, so that's really great to see. The junior class recently hosted a bake sale, which was Valentine's Day themed. It was actually right over here in the glass hallway. You could not get through. Everyone was very excited. The money is going towards their junior prom. The sophomore class hosted a candy gram sale for Valentine's Day as well, and so many students were excited. They were like, oh, I'm going to send it to this person. Everyone was really involved in it. They also recently had the Think Fast Teen Driver Safety presentation, and that's really interactive and also super educational for safe driving, as many of them are, going to be getting their permit soon. So it's good. Harvard Model Congress leaves tomorrow morning, and they've been working super hard. They will be returning on Sunday. Our musical, Legally Blonde, is also right around the corner. Performances will be held on March 7th, 8th, and 9th. And everyone has been working super hard on it, and at least I can say I'm super excited to go. I have a ton of friends in it, so I'm super excited to see that. In addition to the musical, in March, we also have our signing day coming up, which is something to look forward to. A lot of students have committed for athletics, so that's really great to see. We also have spring sports starting, and I know that everyone's really excited about that. As far as sports go, I do have our sports update. So for boys basketball, they are currently 14-10 and second place within the division. They received their the 11th seed in the NJSIAA tournament, and they're going to be in Hackettstown on February 27th. Girls basketball currently is 19-5, and they clinched the division championship last night. They also received the 4th seed in the NJSIAA tournament, and we will be hosting a game against Westmore on February 27th. Boys fencing is currently 11-2 and tied for the championship. And Oliver Poe and Prod are fencing in the NJSIAA state individual tournament, so that's really great to see. Girls fencing is also 11-2 and tied within the division as well. They won the county championship, and Emma Grau is fencing in the NJSIAA state individual tournament as well. For ice hockey, record's pretty decent, and they're being very competitive within their ice hockey league, being that it is the best in the state. So that's really great to see.
Boys skiing is having a great time in the snow. I know they've been looking forward to going up on the mountain. Girls skiing is currently 22-8, and the girls made the state playoffs, and races are next week, so that should be really exciting. Boys swim is 4-7, and Tanner Pagel was invited to the Meet of Champions as a wild card. And for girls swim, they are 5-7, and Ella Echo was invited to the Meet of Champions as a wild card. Boys track is state sectional champions for the third year in a row, and state championships are this Saturday at the Bennett Center in Toms River, so that's amazing. Girls track is going very well. The girls finished 8th in states. Boys wrestling finished the regular season with a 14-16 record, and the district tournament is this Saturday at Watchung Hills High School. And for girls wrestling, there's currently a record of 12-2. Gabby Rudy won Skyline Conference Individual Girls Wrestling Championship at Northampton, so that's amazing. And she'll be competing at the girls regional tournament this Saturday at Union High School. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nora. Our next item up on the agenda for recognition tonight is a recognition of the high school Pinnacle staff. They're a group of very talented writers here at the high school who are also very busy because a lot of them could not make it tonight, but it was a tremendous honor on behalf of the board to recognize them for. So I will make mention of the students that are involved in the Pinnacle and for their recognition. And I believe we have a slide here. So Ms. Snyder is here with her daughter. So welcome and congratulations. So they've received Publication Excellence for the 2023-24 Pinnacle Literary Magazine. They were awarded first place with Special Merit by the American Scholastic Press Association Review and an excellent rating in the NCTE Realm Contest. So we do have this presentation that we will send out to parents, and it will live on our website that does have a clickable link to check out the Pinnacle site. So congratulations, Ms. Snyder, and we do have some folks here that we are going to recognize with a resolution. The first is Lila Beckerman, Marley Beers, Lila Friedman, Jessica Fu, Emma Grau, Vanshika Gupta, Julia Haas, sorry here, Olivia Highland, Ayla Johnson, Joseph Kalinowski, Georgia Kissel, Robert Lopez. Stella McDonald Salerno. Kaylee McGowan Kinney. Joseph Morandi. Alana Natili. Emily Ponja Gichana. Charles Quinn. Inaya Saravanan. Abigail Sebastian. Pradnesh Thope. Fiona Vitali, and we have some recent graduates from the high school. They were members of the class, last year's senior class. Rose Costello, Obviously, these folks are all studying in college. Gianna Gillespie, Ava Highland, Brianna Ho, and Morgan Sykes. So congratulations to all these folks. And to Ms. Snyder. And at this time, Ms. Frenda, we do have some recognitions for the board.
Graduation as a retiree. So, whereas Lori Heppis has been employed from September 1984 through June 2025 as an elementary school teacher, and whereas she exemplified expertise, commitment, and professionalism in her duties, and now therefore be it resolved that the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognize Lori Heppis's retirement effective July 1st, 2025, and extend to her congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement. Whereas John Wallace has been employed from January 1996 through February 2025 as a high school teacher, and whereas he exemplified expertise, commitment, and professionalism in his duties, and now therefore be it resolved that the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognize John Wallace's retirement effective March 1st, 2025, and extend to him congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement.
At any given time, a Board of Education and an administration and the folks that are in the district are involved in 3 budgets at the same time. You're involved in building your future budget, you're involved in spending your current budget and monitoring that, and you're involved in reviewing the budget before that. So every year we have an audit, which is an opportunity to bring in a third party to review the financial health of your district and to review the practices that take place from a financial perspective in the district. So we have our annual audit presentation tonight, and our auditing firm from Supley, Clooney and Company are here to present their findings.
Okay, good evening. This is the presentation of the audit for the year ended this June 30th, 2024. As the superintendent says, every year required to have a financial, but you also are required to have a compliance audit with rules and regulations of the state. You should have received 2 reports. One's the annual comprehensive report that has the financial statements in it, and then there's a smaller report, it's called the Auditor's Management Report. Even though this report is only around 20 pages long, it's supported by an audit manual that the State Department of Education gives us, and it's about 350 pages long, all these different compliance requirements that they require us to look at, and it deals with personnel, payroll, purchasing. And it also includes student activity funds. This is the funds that they are maintained at the school. They collect funds for different classes. And this is where your recommendations would be. And under the student activity, and what's required is that the recommendation be read into the record. So on page 13 of the smaller report, there is just one recommendation, and it deals with the student body activities. And it just says the district take measures to ensure that the analysis of balance in the high school student activity fund agree with the reconciled bank balance. And what we're trying to say there is you're collecting funds from different purposes by different accounts, class accounts, fundraisers, different activities. That didn't equal what the money was in the bank. There was a discrepancy between the two. We're able to get it to work, but it just took us a long time to do that. So that's what you want to do. It's an internal control. In other words, the money coming in should be recorded. What's in the ledger should be recorded. What's going into the bank account. And that's the only recommendation we did have this year. Everything else was, everything else we checked in the business administrator's office. Anything we asked for was in compliance with the rules and regulations. So that was the only recommendation we had. The bigger report is, this is the actual comprehensive report. This is where the financial statements are. There's a lot of information in here. It's not just financial. It's also about demographics and debt capacity and things like that. A lot of redundancy in this report. There's 3 or 4 different presentations. It's budgetary basis, GAAP basis, then there's a combination of GAAP and cash basis. Makes it a little bit confusing. But there's one schedule I always like to point out to administrators and board members. It's called it starts on page 89 and goes to page 99. It's the budgetary comparison report. And the only reason I like this schedule, it's the only one in here that's very detailed. It's your budget. It tells you the amount of revenues you realize by different categories. It tells you where you spent your money by the different categories. It gives you the variances to the budget to what you had. So if you're working on your 25-26 budget, you kind of can use this as a guideline. And it's the only place in here that actually presents your information as a profit and loss. And that's your fund balance. And you come down to the year end, you basically end it where you started from. I mean, you started with $11,600,000 in surplus. You ended the year with $11,309,000. So you're basically where you started from. So for financial health-wise, it's very good. Now, your surplus is comprised of $11,309,000, but that's not all free and clear, because as you're operating during the year, you're putting money aside for different purposes that you're allowed by law. You have a capital reserve of $5.4 million. This is for capital improvements you want to make to the district. You have a maintenance reserve of $1,167,000. Now, that's a reserve there to maintain the facilities, not just build them. There's unemployment insurance of $53,000. You have the money that you're using in the budget, $393,000. There's a reserve for encumbrances, $2,500,000. That's just unfulfilled orders. So when the orders come due in July, August, September, you have money set aside to pay for them. And your unassigned surplus, that's your 2% that the state lets you have, is $1,488,000. So financially, you're very healthy. Also in the report, I mean, it's a single audit. We check all your grants that you're getting during the year, okay? And you get what they call, we give you a clean opinion. In other words, you're in compliance, you have internal controls, you're in compliance with all the rules and regulations of the state. If there's any questions about any of the reports that we do, I don't know if you had these reports for a while, but if you had a chance to look at them, and if you have any questions, I mean, if you don't have any questions tonight, I mean, you could ask. I mean, if you have a question, fine. I mean, but if you don't have anything, just get back to me through the superintendent or the BA, and then we'll gladly answer. Sorry, go ahead.
I've had several people ask me how much federal funding are we getting? What's the best way what display shows the total federal funding? I know there's COVID money that we're spending, but what display shows the total federal money for this particular year?
Let me just, the place that you would see that,
I mean, I can see it in various spots, but I'm looking.
yeah, no, I just want to get to the schedule. It's in the back.
Yeah, because I know, back in the one.
No, it's the C2. It's the detail of the grants. In other words, here, on the C2, page 100,
On 100, okay.
and if you see your revenues up at the top, you go across, it'll say federal sources, $932,000.
Right, okay, there, perfect.
That's your total federal that you're receiving from outside sources.
And obviously, I know a lot of the COVID money was in there.
Yeah.
So the current number is going to be different than that, from what I gather, so, but.
Yeah, okay, let me just.
But that's the 900, okay.
Let's go back. Let's go back to page, let's see, let's go back to page 88, it may be on here. It could have been passed through, in other words, even though it's federal aid, it could have been passed through from the state, but this is,
Yeah.
the only federal aid we have is the Medicaid reimbursement for $500,000, everything else is coming from the state.
Right, that's a whole separate item.
That's a whole separate thing, yeah.
And then the Medicaid. Good, well, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Are there any other questions, comments? If you have anything else, I mean, I'll get back to you if you need to, anything. I would just like to thank the the BA and the superintendent for the courtesies they extend us during the engagement. We come in, we kind of be a little bit disruptive. We ask for a lot of information because we're looking at all the detail. And I also like to thank the board for the appointment. We do appreciate the business, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bit of a review here. Last month, we were able to announce at our board meeting that school newspapers online did recognize the work taking place at the high school. We have a press release that we were able to produce in the interim since our last board meeting. High school did make the top 20. We were the 19th school in the country to be recognized. Second year in a row that we were able to earn this recognition, and we're only the second school in New Jersey to be recognized. So a lot of great things happening in the area of literacy here at the high school. Bedwell's had a exciting month for sure. They had a Lego day in conjunction with, or a Lego design contest in conjunction with World Lego Day. We had a few students at Bedwell, Nora Markley and Finn Reagan, who approached Mr. Thurlow last fall and proposed a Lego contest. There were over 100 projects from all grade levels that participated in this contest. A lot of great designs: robots, cars, towers, houses, sports fields, classrooms, a maze, and a giant Mr. Thurlow was created. Mr. T, they call him. When I was growing up, Mr. T meant something else. But so Mr. Thurlow is the new Mr. T, and the winners received a great 3D printed minifigure that was equipped with a bronze platform and a Bedwell logo. So that was a gift from parent Mike Donahue, who printed all of these items personally and donated them to Bedwell. So certainly many thanks there. And we had some great honorees, and something that, again, was just awesome coming out of Bedwell. Bedwell also set out to collect as many boxes of cereal as possible to donate to the Market Street mission, with the idea that they too could demonstrate a chain reaction, and that chain reaction, both literally and figuratively, was on display with a giant cereal box domino path. And I've seen a lot in my days as an educator, and being on site that day was a first for me, and it was awesome. So throughout January, students were led by Megan Dooley and the 4th grade Link Club. They collected 820 boxes of cereal. Ms. Gelsinger's 2nd grade class was the top collecting class, and grade 4 was the grade level to collect the most. The week of January 27th represented Bedwell's Great Kindness Challenge, and students decorated kindness-themed bookmarks to be distributed at Bedwell and at the Burnsville libraries, and they also decorated coffee sleeves for Priscilla's Pantry and Barrister Coffee. So we also had a school-wide pep rally, and that's where the Great Domino the domino chain took place. So there's a great photograph that Bedwell passed along, and Character Ed is there also, and it was just something great. So we do have a second slide here, just kind of demonstrating as best we can just the depth and breadth of this project. It took the entirety of the gymnasium, and they were able to get every single kid in there, and it was something. The Bedwell Band was on full display, and another great day in Somerset Hills. The high school sophomore class had a Think Fast interactive presentation. It was an assembly, and they came to the high school in early February. It was a culmination of the high school auto safety requirement, and the entire sophomore class, again, took part in this. Students were paired up in the teams. They used handheld remotes, and with a goal of earning points for their team by buzzing in with correct answers to multiple choice and true-false questions. Driver safety is critical. Whether you're talking with a teen or an adult, it's such an important point here, and it's far too often that as drivers we pass accidents and collisions on our highways. 50% of teen deaths from car accidents were from cars driven by teens. Another staggering statistic is that 94% of crashes are due to human behavior. In every 39 minutes, someone is killed by a drunk driver. These are sobering facts, whether you are a student here at the high school, a board member, a member of the public, or what have you. So this is a really important activity for our sophomores and for our future drivers here in the area. And we were able to garner the support of the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office and the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. Mr. Spouts and Mrs. O'Connor really made this a very big success at the high school. We have a few photos there. Kids had a great time. We have some budding French language experts at the high school. Amaya Ram and Parker Caponegro are 8th graders at the high school who won the American Association of Teachers of French nationwide French writing contest. So the prompt asked the students to write about a French-speaking place they would like to visit and to include what they would like to see, what they would like to do, and what they would like to eat. The students demonstrated an excellent command of future tense, higher level vocabulary, and sentence structure was evident, and their writing was well researched. So it was a great day. We were able to hand deliver a monetary prize of $75 to each participant, and it was just another great example of great things happening in our World Language Department. My assistant, Mia, likes to challenge me every month, and she does have a phonetic breakdown of the title of the slide. And I did practice it. I'm a bit nervous. But Felizi Tazian O Levs, which is about as good as I'm going to do at this point. But she does like to have fun with my slides. High school has an everyday hero that they named, Kaylee McGowan-Kinney, who's a senior at the high school, and she was also recognized earlier tonight for her work on the Pinnacle. She's the everyday hero in February. People describe her as selfless. She considers other people's needs first. She has positive contributions to make her learning environment better. She's been described as very mature in what she contributes to classroom discussions, sets a positive example, and easily makes friends with those that need it. She's involved in extracurricular activities, and she cares about making the high school a great place, so it's great to recognize her. Mashio's Food Service featured a February event at the high school, Jersey Fresh Roasted Mushroom Tasting. February 13th over in our cafeteria. Christian Kalinowski and his team focused on mushrooms, and they made chicken marsala soup, and they roasted mushrooms at the pizza station, and it was a big hit. Our history hallway is has a monthly staple in our reports here for the board. The Girl Up Club started an empowerment initiative where one component is for club members to create an informative display in the hallway. In February, the Girl Up Club created a display for Black History Month. So special thanks to Jay Petrolungo. We heard a little bit about sports, and we have our winter sports, and certainly the hockey team has a nice action shot there. They have a recent 3-2 win over North Hunterdon, and we're told from Coach Spouts that they're finishing their season playing their best hockey, as is the ski team. They are moving along in the state playoffs, if you will, for skiing. And our wrestling team, there's a photo there. We have a new coach, Coach Filieri, who is also a physical education teacher at the middle school. There's a photo there from a contest or a tournament in Irvington, and we had 2 of our wrestlers won their weight classes, and many of our wrestlers placed in that event. So that was always great to see. March is quickly approaching, and so is Legally Blonde. So if you're interested, come join us, and you can get tickets for that as well on our website. And the Intergenerational Prom is coming in early May 2nd, and we are planning to have 75 student volunteers and approximately 100 senior citizens from our community. And it's going to be a Roaring 20s theme. 7 weeks into 2025, and you can certainly get more information from our website and from our Friday folders regarding the happenings at inside the district. And as we move forward towards next school year, kindergarten registration has been moving forward. We have 82 kids and counting already registered for kindergarten. We're projecting about 95 to be in our kindergarten section. So things are moving along there. We have been doing some work in our Operation Responding for Excellence. We held meetings in January and early February, and we have a 3rd meeting next week. I'm looking forward to that very much. Right now, we were able to develop some communication loops with families that were able to be with us on site twice. I would like to point out the depth and breadth of the feedback was extraordinary. It was extremely helpful. It was vivid and very appreciative. I appreciate very much. We focus in four separate areas in order to examine the work that we're doing, in order to improve and to get better, and to focus on our end results for our end users. We focused on enhancing our organization, developing a supportive culture with families, focusing on our evaluation process and the implementation of services themselves, and also planning for our future. We were able to have one of those evenings in particular was very productive, and we then capillaried that work out and asked those that couldn't be in attendance, whose children are qualify for special education services or have a Section 504 plan, to submit their experience through a survey as well. So we were able to connect with folks that couldn't make it those evenings and connect with folks that were able to make it those evenings, and got robust information from both groups. So we are actively putting that feedback together. What you see up on the screen is, I can't say that it's graphic art that I personally created, but I did feed some very important words into a generator that really speaks to the feedback that we received in person and through a survey instrument with the community who have children that qualify for special education services, or children who have a Section 504 plan. So I'm going to read the words that are in there, because they're important words, and they speak to the themes that have come out in these sessions, and the themes that serve as our direction. Inclusion, communication, consistency, collaborative, screening, supportive, friendly, involvement, recognition, sharing, access, transition, provide, authentic, engage, articulation, implementation, strategic partners, individualized, invest, connect, transparent, timeline, accountability, behaviorist, neuropsychologist, advocate, feedback, workshops, counselors, mindful, understanding, realistic, logical, rational, social needs, graduation, open, data, measurable, patient, transparent, transitions, options, working with, functioning, parents, students, educators, discussions, team members, and counseling. These are all very important words to me, and I think that they're very important words to the folks that have been able to connect with us as we drive our work forward and as we continue to make efforts to connect our efforts to the end users on the front lines in our classrooms so our kids can excel. And they're important words to me. These words were the words that were written and spoken with the highest level of frequency in comparison to others. So these are all really critical words. Certainly there's context to each of them that we are going through and coding, and we're going to begin that next level of the work with our parent groups on the 25th. So it's been really impactful to me and to the district and certainly to the students here. So I'm excited about this work. We've also had a group of about 100 parents in the district and staff members that are on a email blast list that we have that have asked to be included in future communications and events, etc., guiding this work. And in that group, we do have 15 committed parents and staff members who are very interested in establishing a special education parent advisory group, and that will serve as our next level of work. And that's a collaborative engagement with all parties, and it's really important that we do that, and that's next on the docket. We are developing a budget, and certainly the early winter months focuses on that. I've been reporting on that work. We're in kind of the phase of what I call the hurry up and wait phase. So we're sort of ready for the governor to issue his budget address. He has that address scheduled for February 27th, and then 48 hours after that, the Department of Education releases state aid allocations to the district, and then we kind of get into that final phase of putting a tentative budget together that is balanced for the board to consider in a budget retreat. We will be having a budget retreat on March 15th at 8 o'clock here in this room, and that will outline a lot of the nuts and bolts of what our budget plan is and how everything kind of came together, what our priorities are. We are bracing for a reduction in state aid, and we will be prepared for that. So not a surprise altogether. And I think I shared last month, maybe I didn't, what I do, and it's not overly exciting, but I do follow the state treasurer's reports throughout the year. And what we're finding as a state and as consumers, we're spending less, right? And when you spend less money, there's less taxes coming into the state. When there's less money coming into the state, there's less to distribute out. So things like school funding and things like the budget are dependent on revenue streams. And so when revenue streams don't produce the same amount of revenue, don't produce the same amount of fuel, you have some variations in how state aid is able to be allocated outward. Earlier in the meeting, you heard Mr. Baker have some dialogue about COVID funding, right? And many school districts are seeing, and we've all been prepared for this, but COVID funding kind of coming off of the books and those allocations being expended. And many school districts use COVID funding in a variety of ways. And you have to prepare for that reduction, of funding. So we're prepared, and, it'll be a different type of budget year, but we will present a balanced budget to the board, and more to come on that on the 15th, if not sooner. We were recently at the Bernardsville Planning Board, and last Thursday night, that board did agree with the district that the installation of LED lights on Olcott Field is consistent with the permitted use for that particular site. And we presented what's called a courtesy review to the planning board, and they responded in kind with an approval letter to the board's council on that. So we will be prepared in our budget to install, hopefully in the summer in advance of the fall season. So just as a bit of a reminder to the board, there's been a significant improvement in the quality of athletic lighting since 1977. We intend to contract with Musco Sports Lighting, and they are the industry standard, and certainly I would use the term precise to describe how their lighting impacts our facilities. Here's a photograph of what the actual lighting unit looks like. It's very different. It's not the big giant bulb that we saw in the 70s. And if you have school-age kids that participate in youth sports up at the polo grounds, you will have seen them, very similar. We have 4 pole locations. Our site at the high school is a bit different because on the visitor's side, we do have those structures that we have to kind of work around. So the poles themselves are not uniform, they don't kind of create a box. We will be constructing what they call a 50 candle watt lighting system. So what that means is the average candle watt for the entirety of the project is an average of 50. So in order to get light to the center of the field from the other side of the shed, you have to have a certain level of height and a certain level of direction there, and we're looking forward to kind of having that system in here. We're focused on being good neighbors. We've spent a lot of time listening and learning, and I've spent a similar amount of time with our vendors explaining what it's like to live in the Olcott region and what I feel like our responsibility is as a board to that region. So we have ensured with our vendors and with our architects that the lights that we install will be maintained on the field. You have a heat map there, photograph that does outline where the intensity of the light is, and then you see how, as you move into the stands and behind the stands, the light dissipates. So the field gets lit, the neighborhood does not. Final point, congratulations to the board. You sought out to listen, you sought out to learn, you sought out to work with the community, and you did that. And I'm happy for you. I know it was an area of big priority for a long period of time, so well earned. And at the end of the day, I think that it is a big bonus for the students at the school district level to be able to have access to our facilities. And that was the goal of the board. We've finalized our decision to move forward with a website hosting platform called Final Site. I did discuss this a few months ago between Final Site and another vendor. We are moving forward with Final Site. We like their customer service very much. We like kind of their behind-the-scenes support in the development of the website. We have a goal to roll over on August 1st, and the intention is to give the month of August to get some of the bumps and wiggles out of the way, in advance of the start of the academic year. In the event that you haven't had a chance to look at some of the other exemplars as a national, regional, and a local exemplar that uses final site Virginia Beach, Mount Olive, and Mendham. There are about 20 or 30 different types of templates, a lot of different options. We're at the point now where we internally are examining the templates, and just for fun, we'll throw out 3 templates for the board to, kind of give an opinion on. But we're kind of identifying those as we speak. We will also be having an app, and I showed that video a few weeks ago. Okay, moving on, we continue to examine cell phone usage as a point of reminder. We were asked by our Bedminster rep in the fall to think about how we're utilizing our cell phones in our schools, and we found that our students K-8 are in alignment with Bedminster as far as particular practices. We don't have a cell phone policy per se. We're getting close to having those discussions with the policy committee, but we don't have a policy right now. What we do is we have school-based practices that are built into our parent handbooks, et cetera. We did have a survey, and I want to give you a little more detail as far as survey participation. We had staff members, about 54, 378 parents, 358 kids, and 57 didn't answer who they were, but they did participate. Just kind of a brief snippet of one particular prompt that we'll talk about tonight. When should students be able to use cell phones in schools? 438 parents and students, which is about 50% of the total, answered always, and 2/3, not surprisingly, of those 438 were students. Interestingly, there were students that answered never, so it wasn't unanimous. There were 104 respondents, which is about 10% of the total, who answered never. 90% of those respondents were parents and teachers. We use a descriptor called teacher discretion. I would say that there was a lot of alignment around teacher discretion, meaning 231 respondents, which is about a quarter of the respondents who answered teacher discretion, and 75% of those folks were parents and teachers. That would be applied with as an example, any in-school practices in order to curb classroom use. There were some outlier responses. 15% of participants felt one of 2 ways, that students should be given 100% autonomy, or it should be dependent on the grade level, neither of which are probably realistic. So if you're a parent, over 1/3 believe that a student should have access to their phone, and just about a third, a little less than a third, believe in the school developing procedures for cell phone usage. Of the remaining third, about half of that group believes that students should not have any access. Our next level of work here on behalf of the board is developing a responsible course of action. So through Dr. Butler, we're going to lead a review of the research on literature and adolescent impacts, and that task force will inform the policy and personnel committee of the board in which to best prepare that group in order to have discussions and consider all the various options and to think about the next steps here. So I have had conversations with people that are vehemently against cell phones. I've had conversations with people who are fully supportive. I've had conversations with people that say, you're in charge. Figure it out. Yes?
Regarding the teacher responses, what percentage said of the teachers thought that students should never have access or at teacher discretion?
I can look into that specifically for you and get back, if I could, yeah.
No problem. And who do you anticipate being on this task?
We haven't gotten that far. Are you interested? Okay. Okay. Yeah, and it's, I think we need to be guided, like, surveys are surveys, right? And I think when you have these polarizing subjects, you're going to get a slice of a few different perspectives. You saw that with the Olcott Lighting Project. And I think that the next level for us is to dive into the health and safety impacts long-term on screen time and, what that, how that impacts a child.
I'm really happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and I appreciate that, and I think it's important to be thoughtful and deliberate in this work, and, it's certainly important work. Looking ahead, Responding for Excellence meets on the 25th. You're all more than welcome. We are interviewing again for the Bedwell principal position, which is taking place in late February and early March. We're kind of at not the very, very beginning of that, but sort of getting into the middle. I have identified a finalist for the business administrator vacancy, which I'll be going to the executive county superintendent on for approval. Budget gets up and moving next week, and we have a tentative adoption for our budget. I wanted to take a moment, if I could, for a few more moments. It's been a busy month from a federal perspective, and I want to share some important things with the board, particularly around some of the major executive orders, and I'll argue that every executive order is major. They've been, they've consumed members of the public, they've consumed members on the board that have very significant, fair questions about these executive orders, and I just want to share how does that impact work in Somerset Hills School District. Right, it's important. So a variety of orders came through, and I want to kind of give the backdrop to all of them. Protecting the American people from invasion executive order. So that comes against the backdrop of a well-established law that protects the rights of undocumented non-citizens to attend public schools. The United States Supreme Court ruled in the case Plyer versus Doe that discrimination based upon immigration status is unconstitutional. This is also outlined in the New Jersey statutes. So New Jersey statutes, as a reminder, drives what boards do. They drive what school districts do and administration does. So that's like our recipe, as you will. New Jersey statute prohibits barring any student from public school based upon immigration status. The district has developed specific guidance for school-based staff in the event that any school is approached by a federal agent. All principals and school-based staff are prepared to execute our protocols accordingly in concert with me and the board's attorney. To my knowledge, there have not been any situations involving K-12 schools in New Jersey, and that includes Somerset Hills. Ending racial indoctrination in K-12 schooling. It's important to stress that the order does not specifically compel local school districts to take any action. Regarding the executive orders that have been issued in the past month, New Jersey statutes are at odds with the dictates of the executive order. The order gives appropriate federal agencies, the Education, Defense, Health, and Human Services 90 days to advise the President of the United States on strategies to meet his goals. Again, the order does not specifically compel local boards to take any action. The executive order does offer insight into the curricular changes sought by the current federal administration. It is impossible to predict for now what recommendations will be made to the President moving forward and which will be adopted by federal agencies. There are several New Jersey statutes that require instruction in topics found objectionable by the order. As an example, instruction to allow students to know and understand the nation's heritage of slavery and freedom. That's a requirement. Instruction to learn about the contributions that African Americans have made to our society. That's a requirement. The requirement to incorporate instruction on diversity and inclusion, and the instruction will examine the impact that unconscious bias and economic disparities have at an individual level and society as a whole. That's a requirement. Regarding the rights of transgender students, the statute directs the Commissioner of Education to establish guidelines for accommodations for the needs of those students. The Commissioner has done so and echoed the requirements outlined in the New Jersey law against discrimination, which is still active. Executive orders and funding. A presidential order discusses a rescission of federal funds to states and their local school districts that are non-compliant with its dictates. The order itself recognizes that doing so may be limited by law and pushes the boundaries of the executive branch's authority by attempting to push the boundaries of the federal government's authority to dictate educational services and curricula at the state level. Keeping men out of women's sports. It is important again to stress that the order does not specifically compel local school districts to take any action. This order is at odds with the existing New Jersey law and with formal NJDOE guidance and guidance from the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association. The district follows the state statute outlined in NJSA 18A that permits students to participate in athletic activities consistent with their gender identity. The best way to describe all of these matters is there are multiple entities at the state level, from the Department of Justice to the Attorney General to the Department of Education to the NJSIAA, that are examining all of the orders. And none of them have given us any direction to the contrary, to operate outside of how we always have. So I wanted to share that information with the board, and specifically because it has been a topic of conversation. I have taken several calls and meetings with concerned parents and residents of school-age children and non-school-age children regarding the functionality of the district. So I wanted to share that information with you this evening.
I know you read that. There was a lot.
It was.
There was a lot. I'm sorry. There was a lot there. So you mentioned, yes, New Jersey has our laws that we abide by. And our requirements for graduation and education, the whole. You did mention there, though, if we contradict what the president has set forth, has there been any indication of what's the consequence? Is it a funding issue? Is it a?
Yes.
This is serious. Like, there's a lot going down, and I know that there was a lot that you read.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it started with, yes, this is Black History Month, as it should be, you know, but then there's a lot of stuff that's changing, you know. I don't want to be political, but, you know, it affects our children and our children's education, and I guess, are we prepared, or is the state prepared to fight back against such orders?
So I would say that the orders that I mentioned, many of, if not all of them, are on some level in conflict with state statute. So your question is this, as I understand it, is the state prepared to fight back? And what I will say is, I don't speak on behalf of the state, but there are multiple legal, there are multiple legal entities that are examining the orders from the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, representatives from the DOE that are packed with attorneys, and even the State Athletic Association are examining all of the components of the orders. I would imagine that they're taking a deep and broad look at these, and I would imagine that when they arrive at conclusions, they will give direction to school districts, to the department, et cetera. But there are a lot of examples inside of the orders that are in conflict with state statute, right? So now, that needs to be weighed out. And, it is an important point to reinforce that the United States Constitution provides the responsibility to each of the state in our union to oversee education. And so you see in some of the language that I shared tonight, there's some overstep, it seems, in the orders where they're trying to prescribe. So we're going to leave that work up to the folks at Justice and Attorney General and the DOE. And in the meantime, to be clear, in many of these cases, we are not, as school districts, being compelled to change our work.
You're in constant communication, obviously, with the Department of Education, the Governor's Office, and whatnot. And if there is something, you would let us know, like...
Right away.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right, thank you.
Yes. Certainly. That's my job.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. That was a lot of very important information included in there. Thank you for taking the time to explain it to us and the public as it stands right now. And we will open it up to public comments. The first public comment section, we very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be interrupted and asked to pause to allow any other members of the public who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. An individual may return to the podium to complete their statement after everyone else has had an opportunity to speak for a total of 2 times at the podium. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public comments will be limited to 30 minutes in this section. A reminder for all parties in attendance to remain respectful and that there should be no interaction between the speaker and the audience. No members of the audience should interfere with or interrupt the speaker's comments. We thank you in advance for your input. Any public comments at this time? Okay, can I get a motion to close public comments? Mrs. Santoro, and a second? Ms. Wright, thank you. Okay, then we will move on to the approval of the minutes. I am going to ask for a motion to approve the public input and action and executive meeting minutes for January 2nd, 2025, and January 2nd and for January 22nd, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Ms. Wright and Ms. Hoppy, did you want to do a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. And is there any discussion regarding the minutes? No? Okay, then roll call, please.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Clark Emery.
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Gomez.
So I just have a question about, should I abstain since I wasn't here on January 2nd? Right?
Yes.
So I abstain that and just for January 26th.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Hoppy.
Oh, now you have me thinking, was I here January 2nd?
You were sworn in.
Yes, you were
That's the
here.
date I was-
We swore you in.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Santoro.
Yes.
Mrs. Rye.
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
And Mrs. Brenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, great, thank you. Business operations, Mr. Baker, if you could provide us with that report, please.
Okay, I just want to tell the board the reason I'm wearing AirPods is I have a hearing loss for a lot of frequencies, and in some environments like this, it's very difficult for me to hear everybody. So I am not listening to music. These were gifts from my grandchildren from Christmas. My wife thinks they're stupid. Anyway, moving on, it's my 504 plan is what it is. Anyway, so the Business Operations Committee met twice since the last time we were here, and I was only able to write up one set of minutes because we met yesterday in a special session, which I will talk about. But back on February 5th, the committee met, all members were present, along with Dr. Brochel and Mrs. Valestra. And we also had two guests, Mr. Brian Morris from Phoenix Advisor and Mr. Tony Solomine from Wentz Law, which is our bond counsel. We talked about 4 different items, and one of the items was obviously what we're going to do on the referendum going forward. And they gave us more of a financial picture and a timeline. So they have figured that we can do a tax-neutral referendum of approximately $38 million at the moment. That's based on a 4% interest and getting 34% back from the state on any renovations or improvements. Any new construction would not get the 34% debt service. They also talked about if we wanted to go higher than that, we could go, let's say, for each $1 million we go beyond 38 million, it would cost the taxpayer about $10 for every $1 million on an average house. So that's where that is. So, and we could also do a second question if we wanted to get above the 2% tax increase. So those are some of their parameters. We also talked about it's important what our bond rating is when we get to sell the bonds. If we go through with this, then we're going to hopefully get a good bond rating. That's based on the local economy, the financial strength of the school board, and you heard our accountant today say we're very strong position. Our balance sheet and our level of debt, our current level of debt is very low compared to other schools. The committee asked a lot of what-if questions about how we do this, do that. We had a long conversation, but we're still thinking of key items are the security vestibule at Bedwell, security upgrades throughout the district cameras, doors, our locking system needs improvement, STEM labs, science labs, the Bedwell Media Center were some of the items that the committee has been talking about for a long time that are high on our target list. So based on that, we have to get state approval. The architect would submit plans, and it would take about 6 to 8 months. So the earliest we could have a public vote would be December, not November. So we could do December, January, or March. So those are where we are right now. I'm going to shift into what we talked yesterday. We had the architect come and they gave us a presentation of everything they found as they toured all 4 buildings. And I equate it to like when you had your home up for sale. They come in and they find every little thing, every doorknob, every little scratch, and that's what these guys did. I mean, it's a long list of stuff. I mean, it will make your head spin when you read it all, but you shouldn't be afraid of it because it's a lot of stuff that is just cosmetic, and we were not going to do that. But so we'll all get access to that document, which is a web-based document, and it's really cool the way you can work through it, and you can say, well, how about Bedwell? How's the roofs? You can look at the roofs. They have pictures, do 3D modeling, and they give costs, so you can see what's there. And so the committee will be working with the architect over the next couple months to come up with a group of projects that will hit the 38 million and maybe a little bit more, or maybe a little bit less. So we had a long discussion with them yesterday, and it was very good. But they found everything, every crack in the floor, you name it, it's there. Which, when you sell your home, you're not going to fix everything. You're going to fix, I got a bad roof, I got a bad boiler, or I got a bad, there's a big crack in the wall and it's leaning, things like that. So they didn't find anything that I felt bad about. Everything they found, we pretty much know is there, so that was good. We also talked about the budget. Dr. Brochel talked about is the budget, and I read this morning in the newspaper that the worst you're going to lose is 3%. That's every school district will not lose more than 3% of state aid. So 3% of our state aid, Dr. Brochel calculated, was $72,000. Not a big numbers compared to schools who lost millions last year. So hopefully we'll be maybe 1%, I don't know, but we'll wait to next Thursday, and that will help us finalize the budget. Dr. Brochel said that, he's almost balanced the budget with what he's got, but he's waiting for the state aid. He's got a few more things to do, so we'll learn more at our next committee meeting and then at our budget retreat on Saturday, the 15th. Another item we talked about was he's still recommending it, and the committee agrees that we should apply for a grant to get money to do a consolidation study with Bedminster, all right? That doesn't mean we're going to do it, but we can get grant money to do that. And so as long as both boards agree, we'll go forward with getting that grant. I'm not sure how much the grant is. Do you have any idea what the grant level is, Dr. Brochel?
The studies seem to have been around the $75,000 range.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that. Yeah.
Okay, it's around that, okay. So we'll continue to pursue that as a committee, and we might get a resolution on our next board meeting. We also talked about the hot water heater, which is at the middle school. One of those is broken, so we have to fix it, $9,000, and the maintenance department will do that. And I think he also mentioned, I think that covers it all. Okay, all right. So I'll turn it back to Mrs. Frenda.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, could I just add one point to this regarding the facility study that was done? This was an additional add-on item that I felt strongly that the board should do, given that we brought on a new architect. And I will say that the quality of the work is superior, and the tool that you all will be availed is outstanding. And so it's a new age as far as your architectural services goes. High quality, and I want you to know on the administrative side, we are very, very happy with the quality of their work, and reading the room of the Business Operations Committee, it seems like that opinion is commensurate.
Thank you. Okay, so then I would like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 15 on the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Baker, and a second, Ms. Cooper. And is there any discussion?
I will just support what Dr. Brochel just said. The investment that we made in this will pay tenfold. Wait till you guys see this, the documentation and the level of detail that we now have access to. And instead of getting a binder, it used to be facilities would get a binder every couple of years and we take it off and dust it. I mean, this thing is gonna live. And anytime a change is made to our buildings, it will be updated, and, it was an investment that was well worth it. So I'm so glad you brought it to our attention. Our architects did an amazing job. I think you guys are all we were all pretty excited, so.
We were. It was incredible, just the level of detail in this. And you can go through it and zoom in like you're touring a house or something and see all the areas.
Walk through the buildings.
You could read what's on the boxes in the classrooms. It is truly wonderful.
And I know that Dr. Virgil and Heather are saying it this is like a web-based platform, and everybody will have access to it. So especially in the discussion of a referendum, everybody will be able to go in. You will be able to see every bit of information. You will be able to see the different items that they have tagged throughout the buildings, on the roof, on the ground, on the pavement, everything top to bottom. But, they walked us through it last night.
We went through one building.
One school, and we're going to be playing with this for countless hours and weeks and whatever to really get on top of everything. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that it is a web-based platform that you will have access to and be able to peruse, the same way that we
It
will.
could take hours.
It could, yes.
Go through everything.
But I know it's hard to get excited about, but get excited because it is so cool.
It's exciting.
Is there anybody else?
Bob, very, snaps to you to get all that in from the meeting last night
Yes.
into this report today. Impressive.
Yes.
And also, you always explain things in a very understandable way for your fellow board members and the public, so that is definitely appreciated. I know we have a lot of work on the budget side and, in particular with regards to the referendum, but it'd be an exciting couple of weeks. I mean, we really only have a few weeks, I think, to dig into
Yeah.
this, right?
Yes.
We got to move on this.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to digging in and getting this all detailed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll do roll call.
Ms. Clark Emery.
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Gomez.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoppy.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Yes.
Mrs. Rye. Yes. Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Frenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Before we move on, does anybody have anything for old business, for business operations, or for new business?
Oh, wait.
What?
She wanted to abstain.
I needed to
Oh.
abstain. Can
we do it over again?
Yeah. You want to re-roll?
Is
Yeah.
that the best way to do it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, we're
I
gonna,
just got
Oh, I'm
so
glad you're-
excited about it.
we're gonna roll again.
Okay, Ms. Clark Emery.
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Gomez.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoppy.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Yes, but I will abstain from 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay. Mrs. Rye.
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And we will move on to curriculum. Ms. Cooper?
All right, our curriculum committee met Tuesday, February 4th for an hour and a half. All committee members attended, as did Dr. Brochel, Dr. Butler, and Dr. Edgerton. We began the meeting with a presentation by Dr. Edgerton on math sequencing, alignment, and achievement during the transition between the middle school and the high school. For years, the transition between algebra at the middle school and honors geometry at the high school, and between honors geometry and honors algebra 2 at the high school, has been a struggle for many students and families. This has been confirmed by data Dr. Edgerton presented on student achievement in the past 2 to 3 years. According to these data, while students who achieve an A+ in middle school Algebra 1 tend to achieve an A+ the following year in high school honors geometry, those who receive an A in middle school Algebra 1 typically receive an B or a B- in high school honors geometry, while students who achieve an A- or a B+ in BMS Algebra 1 typically receive a B- or a C in high school honors geometry. Dr. Edgerton also presented related NJSLA data. In 2003, all middle school 7th grade students in Algebra 1 scored a level 4. None failed, but none scored a 5. Among 8th grade students who took Algebra 1, 20% didn't pass the NJSLA, and only 4% achieved a 5. In 2024, all BMS 7th grade students scored at a level 4 or 5. And 14% of 8th graders didn't pass the NJSLA, and 5% achieved a level 5. After considering these data, Dr. Edgerton concluded that we may be over-identifying students for math acceleration in grades 5 through 7 and placing too many students in honors geometry in grade 9. The proportion of students in Somerset Hills placed in an accelerated pathway in the middle school is 50%, or twice as high as the percentage of students taking accelerated math in Bedminster. In light of these findings, in 2024-2025, teachers will recommend students for high school geometry honors only if they have a current middle school Algebra 1 grade of at least a 93, and as a cross-reference, NJSLA Algebra 1 score of at least 760 and iReady scores consistent with these results. to ensure middle school and high school algebra geometry courses are aligned. Articulation and visits between the high school and middle school teachers will continue this month. Dr. Edgerton also recommended delaying double acceleration until the high school. Decisions to double accelerate students before ninth grade should be based on solid evidence of exceptional student achievement. No math acceleration should be offered beyond 2 years ahead. She also emphasized the importance of accurate, conservative recommendations based on multiple data points. Given the significant percentage of accelerated Algebra 1 students in middle school not passing the NJSLA, some members of the committee recommended that the district increase the rigor of middle school Algebra 1. Dr. Edgerton emphasized that this might be best achieved by increasing the time allotted to math instruction with the same teacher at BMS, given the vast discrepancy between the number of minutes allotted to math instruction between BMS and other middle schools. The curriculum committee has repeatedly discussed and supported this recommendation. While the committee understands the logistical challenges associated with increasing time for math instruction, it feels strongly that this is critical to improving student achievement in math in the middle school and high school and should be a priority for the district. We then briefly discussed some developments regarding instruction in Asian American and Pacific Islander contributions to U.S. history in our community. And just as a reminder, beginning in 2022, New Jersey law required school districts to provide instruction on the history and contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders as part of the implementation of New Jersey's student learning standards in social studies. This fall, several students from the high school participated in and graduated from the Asian American and Pacific Islanders inaugural Youth Leadership Program, in which students learned more about AAPI history by developing their own individualized and personalized projects. Congratulations to all who participated in this exciting new program. And finally, we briefly discussed the implications of recent federal actions in our district, thanks to Dr. Brochel for providing a detailed summary in his report tonight. No concerns were raised regarding any of the PD or field trip requests currently on the agenda for approval. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. So then at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 10 on the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
And a second? Ms. Rai? And is there any discussion regarding the curriculum? No?
I know we've been talking about adding math time for a long time, and I know we were able to achieve that to a degree, right, towards the end of COVID, or like as we transitioned out of COVID. So I'm just wondering what you think the feasibility of that will be, and, you know, how long we would be looking at it taking to do something like that, because I know the master schedule is complicated. So
it's certainly something that we are committed to trying to do. There are a lot of factors in creating the master schedule, but it's definitely at the top of our priority list. We think it's really important.
yeah. Okay.
We'll work on it.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
I have a question in this study about the difference between Bedwell Middle School and Bedminster. How did Dr. Edgerton found, like there is a discrepancy, like it's 50% of the students that are in accelerated in Bedwell, right? And only 25%. Is there, can they share something that we can do, like they are sharing with the school or something with? So what is the discrepancy? How is there something we can do?
Well, I know Dr. Edgerton has been working with the principal looking into things. I think we're trying to maybe be a little bit more conservative.
Okay.
So it depends on what Bedminster wants to do, though. We looked at what each school was using to kind of decide, who would accelerate. And we do use many of the same data points, not all exactly the same, though. So.
Okay, yeah, like the requirement, like maybe we say recommendation of a teacher and we don't do it, things like that. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Correct me, don't they use COGAT?
They do use COGATs.
You guys use COGAT?
It's a test that they take earlier on in their school career.
We were thinking, but also was the NJSLA results and they were late.
Right.
But also I think we don't do the, how you call the teacher recommendation. I think that's, and they do it here, I think.
We look at teacher recommendations.
Right.
Yes.
So that's,
I think also that, to what Dr. Butler was saying, I think that it's like, there's likely going to be somewhat of an evening out in that the data has borne out that we've been likely over-identifying kids for acceleration. So whereas, like bringing in the NJSLA data now, bringing in our iReady data now, that is giving much more context to identifying these students. So I think that, on our ends, we're kind of working that way, and then through those discussions that Dr. Edgerton has had with staff at Bedminster, they can make decisions on how to proceed, with their identification process.
Yeah, we're working toward evening out.
thank you.
Okay.
If I may, we also discussed, I'm so sorry. We also discussed how COVID played a large part in, how children have been affected in their math achievement. So it's like, we can't, when I listen, I was on the committee, we're listening, going, oh my God, these scores are, how is this possible, because we've always been, but, we're just coming out of a pandemic too, and kids were virtual, and it's like this perfect storm. And then you try and align our standards with Bedminster and Bedminster to us, and then it's just, it's very difficult.
And we do see, now that you mentioned COVID, we do see that for a while, we didn't really have reliable NJSLA data. We do have that now, and we do see that it is strongly correlated with performance and achievement as students go on. So that's something that we can really use to make sure that we're placing our kids in a place where they can do their best.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just gonna let
Go
you
for it.
go, and we'll come
No,
back.
no.
I just wanted to reiterate, on my report was talking about the achievement of a small segment of our students between, 7th and 9th grades, or 7th and 10th grades, and I think overall it's important to remember that, recognize that, our math achievement is improving. We're improving year after year. Last year, we saw quite a significant improvement. I think they're just areas that we can continue to focus on.
Was there something else you wanted to add?
It flew out. I was paying attention.
Okay. Anybody else?
You want to say thank you.
Okay, well, then we can do roll call.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Gomez. Mrs. Hoppy.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Yes.
Mrs. Rye.
Yes.
Mr. Baker. Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Clark Emery.
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, wonderful. And before we move on, does anybody have any items for new business for a future agenda or old business related to curriculum? No? Well, then we will move into personnel, Ms. Ballard.
All right, we have a lot of policy, but not a lot of personnel. We just reviewed the agenda for the personnel section, basically, in our meeting. So that's all I have for personnel. But wait for policy.
Thank you. Well, then at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 19 on the agenda. May I have a motion? Ms. Ballard and Ms. Santoro, and any discussion? Personnel is a tricky one. Okay, then we'll do roll call.
Ms. Gomez. Mrs. Hoppy.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Yes.
Mrs. Rye.
Yes.
Mr. Baker. Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Clark Emery.
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, before we move on, is there anything for new business for future agenda or old business for personnel? Okay, then we will move on to policy.
Okay, I just wanted, so my report, for some reason, the printed report that you have in your hand is missing some of it, but I have it on my phone, so I will go into that. So just when you see me on my phone, it just is for the second page. I'm going to read off of that. I'm asking for an exemption. So we met on February 6th from 4 to 5:15 p.m. In attendance was Mrs. Clark-Emery, Mrs. Santoro, Mrs. Frenda, and Dr. Burchill. We did a lot of first readings of policies. The first was Policy 5111, which is the eligibility of resident/non-resident students. This is related to the payment of tuition for any non-certificated staff members who do not reside in the district but have been permitted to enroll their children in the educational program of the districts without the payment of tuition. They must now be charged a uniform tuition amount submitted to and approved by the executive county superintendent pursuant to NJSA 18A 38.3. This does not impact our current practice. P5460, high school graduation, the filing of the FAFSA, which is the Federal Financial Aid Form, is now required for high school graduation. It is, however, possible to opt out. Number 5512, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. In the case of a criminal matter, police are the first line of inquiry, and we are second. The actions were not parallel. Additionally, hold on a second, sorry. Additionally, there was also discussion of the possibility of the board taking HIB refresher courses if so desired. Oh, and I missed a paragraph, I'm sorry. Suggestion was made for an expedited system for handling HIB appeals, but the suggestion was withdrawn and is not submitted for first reading. 5533, student smoking. New language. Electronic smoking devices includes electronic cigarettes, vaping, nicotine, and other substances. Staff must notify school leaders when a student is under the influence. Parents and superintendent must also be notified. Optional language includes, quote, students may be required to have other counseling education, end quote. 7441, electronic surveillance in school buildings and on school grounds. This develops a memorandum of agreement between the police and the school to activate video equipment and view live streaming video during an emergency situation. P8500, food services. The revisions of the Working Class Families Anti-Hunger Act include but are not limited to new terminology, expansion of income eligibility to qualify students for free meals, and additional parent notifications of school meal information. P9163, Spectator Code of Conduct for Interscholastic Events. And this is new. Schools must adopt a policy that requires immediate removal of a persons from the event or school premises for violating the Spectator Code of Conduct. Minimum disciplinary issues include suspensions of a person from attending future interscholastic events for violating said policy, a required education component for violators, parent acknowledgement of receipt of the copy of the policy, and code of conduct provisions for the policy to be posted at all venues hosting competition to the extent possible. The policy shall also include an appeal process. P320, cooperation with law enforcement agencies. School districts must annually review, revise when appropriate, and adopt the uniform state memorandum of agreement between education and law enforcement official MOA pursuant to the statute. All requirements are detailed in MOA. New addition includes option that the superintendent designate a law enforcement unit for the district, as well as the handle with care policy, which requires law enforcement officials to notify the district when a student enrolled in the district witnesses something traumatic outside of the school environment. The superintendent will designate a point of contact in each school building tasked with receiving these notifications. And then we went on to policy second reading, which policy 0155, the board committee bylaw, and then substance abuse, the student's administrative regulation. And then in March, we are going to go through a variety of other policies to review. P5516, use of electronic communication devices. P5701, academic integrity. P5710, student grievances. P0614, conduct of board meeting, which was requested by a board member in last month's meeting, but we didn't have time to get to it, so we're going to do it in March. And that ends my report.
Thank you very much. So then I would like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 and 2 on the agenda for policy. Can I get a motion? Ms. Ballard, and a second. Mr. Baker, and discussion regarding policy.
I don't just want to talk about the cell phone usage, so I could do that in, you want me to do it now?
Well, it was in the superintendent's room.
Okay. So I just wanted to touch on that quickly. I appreciate that a task force is going to be developed. Because since we started having conversations on this board, watching what our neighbors in Basking Ridge are doing, there's a lot of buzz, a lot of talk about it. So I appreciate that you're going to kind of, have Dr. Butler guide us through this process. I do think it's important, and I think, there's a lot going on for our kids. So to not consider this, I don't think that would be advisable for kids and what's best for them. So I appreciate that, and I just wanted to say that. So thank you. I look forward to the input that the committee has, or the task force has for the committee.
Ms. Wright?
I just wanted to talk very briefly about the spectator code of conduct. I think that's a very good policy that the state is putting down now, and it will make it clearer what our responsibilities are as a district, and hopefully teach not only children, but their parents about behaving in public, because we have seen, not necessarily here, but we have seen, districts where fights have broken out and awful things have been said and things like that. So I guess I'm not applauding us necessarily, I'm applauding the state with coming down with this guidance for us, because I think it'll make things a lot clearer for everyone involved. Thank you.
If I could touch on that. I think it also helps the administration, teachers, and everyone involved to help maintain order at these events. Do you know what I mean? Gives them a little bit of backing, instead of saying something and then having somebody come back and, I'm going to get a lawyer or whatever, you know what I mean? So this is good.
And because this is something that came out of NJSIA, it also it'll be a level of uniformity across the state.
Yep.
So, of course, we add in our own bits to the policy, but there will be a level of uniformity, which is really important, that everybody's working from the same place. Is there anybody else for policy? Nope. Okay, then can we do roll call, please?
Ms. Gomez.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoppy.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Yes.
Mrs. Rye.
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Clark Emery.
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Mrs. Brenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and is there anything new or old business for policy? No? Okay, then Ms. Santoro, we can move on to student services.
Okay. All right, so Student Services met on February 6th at 5:30, and all committee members were in attendance, as well as Dr. Broschel. Dr. Broschel gave a really detailed report of the first topic we talked about, so I won't go into that in any level of detail, and that is the Responding for Excellence meetings. But he gave us, the information that he has now shared in his superintendent report. The only thing I will say is that the committee is deeply committed to enhancing our special services, and we know that the work that Dr. Brochel is leading the district in will only support that. So, we're glad that we have been able to bring community members in, get feedback, have staff participate in that, and, as we move forward into budgeting, the committee feels that the board should really support this work in whatever way is recommended by our administration. So that is what I wanted to note from a committee standpoint. Next, we talked about school climate, as that was one of the goals set, and the committee is very pleased to know we will be embarking on a school climate survey utilizing the New Jersey School Climate Improvement Platform through Rutgers. This is a free online tool for data-guided school climate improvement. It is currently being used by a growing network of 175 districts and 600 schools throughout New Jersey. Some of us had learned about this platform over the years, predominantly through New Jersey school boards. By all accounts, it is a really deep, thorough dive into school climate. So, we are definitely glad that we're going to be using this. The platform offers our district resources to support team development, a calendar of suggested meeting topics and agendas, and note-taking tools. The actual survey that will go out to staff and community members. It's a validated school climate instrument that is administered electronically to students in grades 3 through 12, staff and parent caregivers. Interactive data reports with insights and the ability to compare perceptions within and across schools and by groups. Data analysis features for exploring school climate strengths and news, tools for goal setting and the development of strategic plans, including interactive graphs to monitor progress over time. So I included the link in our report, but it's probably worth repeating that you can learn more about this tool through NewJerseySchoolClimate.org. And, as we've talked about, the culture and climate is really critical for our students' success as scholars and human beings. So this is a really important initiative, and we're glad to see that we're going to be embarking on this. Next, we talked about Capturing Kids' Hearts, which is a program that that began this year at the middle school. And we were very excited to hear that great progress is being made at the middle school with Capturing Kids' Hearts. Our consultant has conducted walkthrough and training sessions and is extremely impressed by everything that is being done over there by our staff and students. They said that they are all very quick learners, and the adoption of this program has been excellent. Overachievers over there. There is a common shared language that is taking hold that is helping to drive a positive culture. And we were so pleased to hear that student conduct is improving. As of this time in 22-23, there were 164 reported conduct incidents. Last year, 23-24, there were 136. And this year, at this time, there are only 47 results. So that is pretty drastic numbers in such a positive direction. And, one of the things that has been noticed that kids are feeling like teachers want to know more about them as people and individuals than just what their grades are. And that's critical to their success. So the committee was thrilled to hear that. Finally, we discussed a program that BMS will be participating in, and it's called No Hate in the Garden State. And it's run by the Office of the Attorney General, the Division on Civil Rights, and the Division on Criminal Justice. And they invite middle and high school students with a passion for civil rights and social justice to participate in this program. It aims to empower the next generation to work to eliminate bias and discrimination in their communities. So their participating youth are invited to elevate their voices and act as community change agents. So the middle school is going to be participating in that. So we look forward to hearing more about how that goes and, the details of the program.
Okay, well, in a change from months past, there are action items for student services. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 4 on the agenda. Can I get a motion, please? Mrs. Santoro and Mrs. Cooper, a second. And is there any discussion regarding student services?
I just have a question. Why is it the survey is only third grade to, why is it third grade and not kindergarten? Because you have this wonderful, exciting program going on, with the integrated.
Don't know.
Okay.
Don't know.
Okay.
But I
good
can
answer.
ask. I can ask the researchers.
Okay.
I think the work that takes place at Rutgers goes through the institutional review board.
Oh, so we didn't pick the 3?
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's Rutgers' work.
Okay.
And, so there's some considerations there
Okay.
as far as how they conduct their research on human subjects, which is
Okay.
what's happening.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? For students?
I just wanted to, I always start with, I just wanted to. I'm very happy to see that a lot of work has been put into creating, or at least the beginning of it, a parent advisory group. I feel like that's where you really can get a lot of people sit outside and talk to one another, and those are really good conversations. But if we don't coalesce those conversations into actionable activity, then we're really not serving our children and our community as best we can. So I'm very heartened by the idea of creating a parent group. And, I commend everybody who showed up for the first meeting and the second, and I'm sorry I could not make the second, but I will certainly be there for the third. Thank you.
Does anybody else? So, just to piggyback on what you're saying, unfortunately, I had to work on those nights, and I wish to God I could have gone, because special ed, is who I am. But if you listen closely, and I am a new board member, one thing I am hearing throughout, there's like a theme going on here, which is culture, creating a healthy culture within, not that there wasn't, but it's something that is so important in Somerset Hills, not only to take care of the health and well-being of our children, but the health and well-being of their parents, the health and well-being of the community at large, and that's huge, and it speaks volumes to the direction, and I will commend our leader here. It says a lot about leadership and who we are as a district. So I thank you, and I thank the board, because you've been here way longer than I have, and it's just a testament to who we are, and thank you.
I think it is something holistically that this board is extraordinarily committed to, and the recognition that,
You hear it.
and that we focus on academics, we focus on achievement, we focus on wellness. In order for those things to be achieved, you have to have that culture and climate existing from day to day. So this is something that as a group, we have been very committed to, and so happy to have you on board to continue the work. Is there anyone else that has anything for student services? Yes.
Just questioning, I know you probably have said it, but I think it's excellent that you guys are going to have a parent kind of committee, so to speak. Is that going to be open? Does the public know how that's going to be?
For what?
For what we were just talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and students, yes, special services.
Yes, so we did invite parents in the district to participate, and we're finding that it's not just one lane
that we provide, we like to provide kind of multiple lanes because of people's schedules. So we do have an in-person model, and then we do send surveys out in targeted ways to get information back. The best way I can describe it is I like to have circular flow to the way we do work, not linear. You all at the board feel very strongly, and I'm hearing it, about having a capillary out and really connecting. And I feel the same way. And the work that we do can't just be done one way. And I'm just a piece of the circle. You're just a piece of the circle. We've got 1,600 kids and scores of parents and 16,000 residents of all the folks that we serve, school-age families, non-school-age families. We have challenges that impact everybody in unique ways, and we need to be creative to go out and get that information, get as much information back, and to develop relationships, because those matter. The work that we're doing with parents of children who have qualify for special education services or Section 504 plans is really important work. And what is coming back to us tenfold is relationship matters. Relationships matter. And when I'm with those parents and when I'm reading survey information back, that's what they're saying. Relationships matter. And whether we're talking about this topic or athletic lights or whatever the topic is, everyone's got a really important voice, right? And one thing that I feel like I'm able to provide is that avenue for safe spaces in non-threatening ways to share information that might not always be awesome, right? But it's so important that I'm able to kind of feel your feeling and to be able to translate that into action, to Pat's point, to board action. And we're not spinning our wheels. You know, we're moving this work forward in connecting out. You know, it's important to me to be able to connect. It's important to me to put you all in the positions to be able to do that. You know, I love having you at events. Hey, can I come? Sure, yeah, come on, you know. And you guys drift around and listen to people. And I'll argue that the work that we did, you know, around the lights wasn't around the folks who wanted the lights. That wasn't where the real work was done. The real work was understanding the folks that live near here. And, you know, how does that impact? Because those feelings inform the work of the policy committee in a really significant way. The policy committee got together and wrote the most heartfelt policy that I've ever been connected to as a superintendent. They did beautiful work. But that work would not have been able to transpire if we don't spend the time and understand, like, what is your experience if you're a resident of Olcott, as an example, or Old Army, or whatever, in the region here. And it's important for me to be able to create that information. And that information comes from circular flow, not from just top down. You know, give me a call if you have a problem. But like really, like, let me feel it. And so, you know, I take all sorts of feedback from folks, and, you know, I like to translate it into digestible, workable pieces. So we're always trying to get kind of topical engagement, and that's going to be a hallmark not only of this board but of my leadership. So we'll always kind of have that. So thank you.
And I just wanted to add to that, that this work that did the outgrowth, I think that Dr. Burchell mentioned in the report, the parent advisory group, that will be then the next layer of that, where there will be, that's a parent-led group. So that's actually not district employees leading the group, that would be a parent-led group. And so that was what Dr. Burchell was referencing with, you know, 15 interested parties so far from that, from families of IEP and 504 students. And then through that work, then, they then have the ability to further connect with district staff and invite them in, and invite actually other specialists in the field to come and inform the parents and the work. So that, and none of that would have been possible without this. So I think we're in a good place for that work. Is there anybody else? No? Okay. Then can we do roll call?
Mrs. Hoppy.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Yes.
Mrs. Rye.
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Clark Emery.
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Gomez.
Yes to number 4. Because the other side.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Frenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, then we'll move into board announcements. The views and opinions that may be expressed by individual board members of the Somerset Hills Board of Education during board announcements are solely those of the individual board member and do not reflect the views, opinions, policies, regulations, and/or positions of the Somerset Hills Board of Education and/or any other individual members of the board. Does anybody have anything to add for board announcements? No? Okay. Then we move into second public comments. And I do have to read my spiel, so if no one here is going to be making a comment, I apologize. But public comments are welcome at this time on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be interrupted and asked to pause to allow any other members of the public who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. An individual may return to the podium to complete their statement after everyone else has had an opportunity to speak for a total of 2 times at the podium. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. A reminder for all parties in attendance to remain respectful and that there should be no interaction between the speaker and the audience. No members of the audience should interfere with or interrupt the speaker's comments. Thank you in advance for your input. Do we have any public comments? No. Then can I get a motion to close public comments? Ms. Santoro, and a second? Okay, Ms. Hoppy for a second. And then that just leaves us.
I have a board announcement.
Okay.
I'm making a lot of trouble today. I'll just make it super fast.
Go ahead.
I just want everyone to check your emails. I
It's on
don't
here.
recall the date, but the Unsung Hero program for our county is coming up in mid-March.
They extended the registration. It's actually passed.
Okay, so yes.
So it's in your emails, yeah.
But it's where the county, every school district selects an unsung hero, and then they get honored at the Votech School on a lovely evening, and a bunch of us went last year, and it's well worth your time if you can squeeze it into your schedule. I'm sorry, but you know that one is, it's so important, and I knew I had it in my head there, so. I don't.
It is
know.
March.
It's March.
Yeah, it is. It is March, yes.
March 3rd, oh, it is that early.
Yeah, that's what
So that's next.
they literally extend, it's in your mailbox, it was still open.
Yeah, you have to register. They seem to be pretty flexible if you contact the,
Yeah,
yeah,
they want you to be there.
yeah.
Very,
Sorry, thank you.
a very out of the ordinary departure from
I appreciate it.
protocols. And all that's left then is a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And a second? Ms. Gomez, and all in favor? Aye. Okay, everybody, have a great night. Thank you so much.
What?
You gonna go?